time. Hello everyone. Welcome to this webinar about ISTQB's latest certification within the Agile approach, focusing on Agile Test Leadership at scale. I'm very proud of this certification and the body of knowledge that we have created, and I'm also proud that I can present it here today with some of my co-authors, Michael Heller, Ilia Kulakov, Line Ebdrup and Thomas Harms. My name is Mette Bruhn-Pedersen, and I am the product owner for the ATLaS certification in ISTQB. So today you will learn a lot more about what ATLaS certification has to offer you. Maybe you consider to become certified. Maybe you want to learn the body of knowledge so you can use it in your daily work life. No matter why you're here, you will hear why this can benefit you and what your company can achieve if you learn the things we have in ATLaS. It is important for us that the methods covered in ATLaS is something that you can use in your company and organizations so that you can help your company become more value-driven and increase its business agility. At the end of this webinar, you will also know what it takes to become certified and where you can take an ATLaS exam. So we've divided this webinar into 3 parts. First, we want to explain what or whom we had in mind when we developed ATLaS. Then we get into the content of ATLaS, where you will get an overview of some real examples and show how ATLaS can be used in your daily work. Last but not least, we also go through the practical details you need to know in order to get certified, including some good arguments for convincing your manager to send you to an ATLaS training and certification. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments in the right-hand side of your screen. We will answer some of them as we go through the presentation. And if you have many questions, we should have time at the end of the webinar to get back to those. So let's get started with the first part. Now, I've worked with Agile transformations at scale for almost 10 years and seen a lot of companies and organizations struggle when they try to go from a few Agile teams to an Agile organization. There are many different challenges, but some of the most important ones are resistance to change and not enough leadership buy-in. I have especially seen these challenges among colleagues who work in various roles within QA and testing. There's been a lot of good reasons for the resistance and lack of buy-in, of course. But having this said, this has been a problem for the companies that actually try to pursue business agility and becoming a more value-driven organization. So when we started developing ATLaS, we described different target groups to understand what each group is trying to achieve and how ATLaS could help. So let's dive into that. So here you see Beth. Beth is one of our target groups. And Beth is an example of a test manager, which I have met with most of the customers I've worked with. Beth has worked for many years in IT. She's probably started as a tester, and with experience, she got more and more responsibilities and maybe got into test management. She has experience with Agile as she has worked in Agile teams, or maybe she's worked as a test manager in an Agile project. As long as she works with testing in an Agile team, Beth thinks that Agile works really well. However, Beth has little experience with Agile on an organizational level, and she finds it difficult to integrate quality and test activities that spans multiple teams. So ATLaS was developed to help Beth think and design quality in on an organizational level and cope with different levels of Agile maturity. ATLaS can also help people who are experienced testers who want to pursue a leadership career, or people who work in Agile teams and just want a better understanding of how to promote agility and collaboration across the organization. So let's also hear from my co-author what she felt was compelling about ATLaS.
Yeah, thank you, Mette, for handing it over. My name is Line, and I'm just going to speak a little bit about why I joined the ATLaS task force. It's kind of related to what Mette just said about Beth. I was driven by curiosity, frustration, and then a little bit of boredom because it was during Corona. I was facing challenging on the project I was on. It was a big agile project, and it was at scale, and we were using SAFe, and I had some test management challenges that I couldn't really solve. And so I started searching for literature and tried to discuss with my colleagues how could I solve these, and I didn't find any answers. And then all of a sudden, one day, I found the Atlas body of knowledge. I signed up initially for just providing feedback, reviewing and providing feedback for the syllabus. It was version 1.0. And I was excited about this because I thought maybe it can answer some of the problems that I currently have. And I was instead invited to join the task force, which I was really excited about, but also nervous because could I contribute? And I learned so much from this and grew a lot. In the work group, I have met with passionate and brilliant individuals who challenged my thinking, and it's been immensely rewarding to be in this group, and it broadened my perspective on agile testing and leadership in general. And it's something that I would have never gotten just by reading on these topics online. So it was really, really helpful for me to join this group and to get the valuable insights. It's both been really good for me professionally, but it's also been fun along the way. And we have this really funny quote from one of our meetings that some people they go to tennis every Wednesday, but we meet in the Atlas workforce task force instead, and discuss agile testing at scale. So it's been really valuable for me to join the group, and I've learned so much and contributed myself. So.
Thank you for sharing that, Line. And let's dig into then the second part about what is it that Line is talking about? What is the content of ATLaS? So we have both a quick overview in case you haven't downloaded the syllabus and the body of knowledge, so you're not familiar with the content. And then we're going to tell you some stories from real life, how this can actually contribute, and so you can see what can this do for you in action. So this is what we call the big picture, ATLaS at a glance. It outlines the 5 chapters we have with the headlines of quality assistance and how to improve quality and flow in a value-driven organization. How about continuous improvement and quality and testing, and then organizational test strategy in a value-driven organization. And last but not least, the test processes in a value-driven organization. With these 5 chapters, we are giving different perspectives on things and challenges you will face most likely when you're trying to scale agile. It's not just about individual teams, it's about multiple teams working together and the whole organization trying to become much more agile and, in essence, deliver value to customers in a better and more efficient way. So each of these chapters have different sections with the content, and that's what we're going to hear more about in our different stories. So let's go to the actual stories where we have taken up a few topics, and I'm very happy that my co-authors here will present some real examples from how ATLaS can be used in the real life. So back again to you, Line. Line, did you pick up?
I think I'm unmuted now. Perfect. Thank you,
Yes, you
Mette, for handing back over. We're kind of hooking a little bit back to my example from why I joined the work group and the same project. I work as an IT consultant and test manager on large scale IT projects, and I kind of try and help guide my clients through the labyrinth of quality testing along the way. And one of the misconceptions that I often encounter is the belief that agile teams can handle all testing themselves and all quality assurance independently. They don't need a test manager. We just need the teams to take care of testing. But what I've seen is that it's not so simple, and it's not realistic that the teams can necessarily just do it on their own. And let me share a story from a project where we had 7 functional teams that were all responsible for end-to-end testing of the solution. With looming deadlines and no clear testing guidelines, chaos soon ensued on the project. Some teams skipped end-to-end testing because they were really busy, while others did their own thing and only covered their functionality and mission-crucial bugs that cross-functional testing could have caught. During the chaos, the project management team recognized the essential role of test leadership in a scaled context. They realized the need for someone who could mentor the teams, steer them toward a uniform approach to end-to-end testing, and iron out inconsistencies between the team. And this realization led to a successful execution of a comprehensive end-to-end test at the end. And how did we achieve this? Well, we did this through quality coaching. And they appointed a new Agile test leader that came onto the project. The test leader didn't just give the teams input from the guidelines and input from the sideline. She dove into the trenches with the functional teams, collaborating and discussing challenges related to quality assurance and testing that the teams were encountering, really helping and working with the teams. The test leader also facilitated necessary planning and training session, ensuring that every team was equipped to contribute to the project-wide identification of the core workflows in the solution, because of course the testers were experts on that in their own little areas. The test leader's excellent facilitation skill fostered an environment where open discussions about testing and quality became the norm instead of being the exception. And because of this, the Agile teams were able to perform an end-to-end test, but they needed a little bit of help and a little bit of test leadership and quality coaching to get there. I feel my story stresses that while teams are self-organized, the guidance and support by test leadership is crucial for a successful implementation of Agile methods at scale. And to hook this back to our different chapters and sections, in section 1.1 of Atlas, we delve into the concept of quality assistance, a strategy to make quality a team and project-wide responsibility and empower the delivery teams. The next section is 1.2 that details the skills needed to successfully implement quality assistance, from coaching techniques to designing learning experience tailored to different personal levels in your organization. Yeah, and this concludes the first chapter. And now over to Thomas, who's going to dispel some other misconceptions related to some of the other Atlas chapters.
Thank you, Line. Hello, my name is Thomas, and I work full-time as a trainer, giving certification trainings in the area of testing, requirements engineering, and Agile. So in my role, I often train test leaders from different industries like automotive or financial services, and many of them struggle with their role in scaled Agile. So my misconception is, if testers don't make a stand for quality, no one will. Yeah, so a typical story from one of my colleagues would go like this: our testers catch many defects that would really hurt the business, but still we are not exactly popular in the organization, and we are often blamed for delaying releases. It seems that we are in a bit of a no-win situation here. If we keep doing thorough tests, we sacrifice speed for quality, and we will be blamed for slowing down feature delivery. If we reduce our testing effort to allow for faster delivery, we sacrifice quality for speed, and we will be blamed for defects escaping into operations. The problem here is that optimizing defect containment in one test stage is an example of local thinking. Traditionally, we testers like to believe that we can only act within the box of our test stage. We tend to accept the idea that software will always enter our test stage with poor quality, and it must leave with much higher quality to avoid business disruptions. So all we can do is perform rigorous testing to catch all those nasty defects, which will of course take time. Result, our test stage can become a bottleneck for the delivery of business features, which was the pain point in our original story. So now, how can Atlas help in this situation? Click. Let me first say there is no simple textbook recipe how to address this challenge. Development and delivery of business features is a value stream and a complex system in its own right. Looking only at small parts of a value stream, like one test stage, will result in local optimizations, that is maximizing the defect containment, and that will often decrease the overall flow of business value. Value stream analysis gives you the big picture of your value streams using a balanced mix of flow metrics and quality metrics. Click. System thinking is a powerful tool to overcome local optimizations and find global improvements. And causal loop diagrams are useful to visualize system thinking, and they can help you explain how changes in one part of a value stream would affect other parts. So how could a possible solution look like? Pushing quality from 0 to hero locally in one test stage does not work well, so we should consider quality over the entire value stream. One part of the solution could be to have higher built-in quality and more early testing before our test stage. Another part could be to make operations more resilient, so escape defects are less likely to disrupt the business. Making operations more resilient also opens the door for testing and production, which is actually the topic of Michael's story.
Yes, thank you, Thomas. It's another concept we might have to deal with, especially in our testing sphere from our tester colleagues. We can hear the imperative to not test in production. We might know that. We have good knowledge of ISTQB wisdom. We have a steeled system test environment. Testing means that things are caught in the system test environment and definitely not in production. I remember quite well around about the year 2018 in my company when we first held a wider spread internal speech and discussion about DevOps concepts. This discussion mentioned testing in production, and it was to the time quite hard for the whole group to think about that. Highly experienced test managers were part of the things that were discussed there quite deep in opposition. Having heard about, and now click for a cool animation, important DevOps practices, DevOps concept, having had a chance to discuss that is a thing we needed at the time. We still need, and in the meantime, even more than back in 2018, even if the discussion probably starts from another starting point than then. It's modern age. Obviously, such a discussion should not only be about knowing DevOps practices. It's about, click please, test and flow related matrix. Either might be some more flow related matrix and a little less of counting 1,000 open bugs in different severity levels. Which fixed bugs first should go down anyway, but what is a should? The Atlas syllabus gives some DevOps practices indeed you might have or might not have heard about, and let's look at them. Click. Green-blue deployment or something like that. The answer is more or less strong or not so strong. Test and flow related metrics areas mainly mention in our body of knowledge customer satisfaction as outcomes in terms of business value. That's not the end of it. Well, we have only 2 days for Atlas training, or maybe 3 of it if you make a better training. For the self-study, it's the time you put in there. But on the other hand, everything is there to discuss it, to dwell into it, regardless if it's in a real life planning or people talking inside an Atlas event. They can talk about their inner resistances, like testing in production. We can discuss A/B testing, that not really is testing, it's more of a requirements engineering, but that's not accidental. The impact of tester guys to requirements engineering is high and gets higher and should be high also in scaled environment. That thing like group lean deployment enable us to be resilient, Thomas, you just said. We have to talk about. It can be done with feature toggles. We can hint at the business risks, technical depth that feature toggles can mean, even if that, again, is not exactly in the Atlas body of knowledge, but we can set it as a starting point that all these technologies are also a thing that we have to accompany from the quality perspective. Hinting to the wisdom beyond the written lines, starting the learning journey is one of the greats about Atlas, in my point of view. In a value-driven organization, the organizational testing strategy, and that again, we can highlight, click in our establish an organizational testing strategy. This is where it leads to. We should, could, and must discuss DevOps practices where things that might seem counterproductive or wrong to testers first hearing it. Testing in production is one of these examples that for sure sounds wrong at the first glance, maybe at least. Not so much to some software architects being at stage from agile perspective with these guys is also an important thing. We need to have words in our volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world to discuss how the testing strategy should advance in the lean, agile way. And I'm personally deeply convinced that agile test leaders fostering a real test strategy becomes rather more than less important if things are done the lean, agile way. It's not better to expect that test leadership happens by only teams and software architects. Having the means available to start and lead such a discussion, for me, is, as I said, a very important thing for anyone doing agile test leadership at scale. So that's my example for misconceptions and that you need to discuss it. And Ilia, you again have a very practical example, have you?
Yeah. Thank you, Michael. Hello, my name is Ilia. Today I want to tell you a story about next misconception. Test activities on the team level is enough in large organization. Large organizations encounter major activities on all levels. Organization, product, team, which smaller don't have. We can use a recent technical migration in large organization that highlighted some issues as an example of why we need to coordinate test efforts across agile and non-agile teams. Click, please. The migration involved transitioning more than 10,000 servers from the current virtualization solution to open source solution. All teams were involved. One of the issues was increased. It was time on daily things. Another one, it was aligning the testing processes between teams. Based on the analysis of the first wave of migration, a conclusion was made that test activities and processes need to be improved. Agile practices help to manage challenging processes and coordinate testing between agile and non-agile teams. Click, please. Several improvements like one backlog, big room planning, were made to improve test activities and processes on organizational level before, during, and after the migration, mandatory test activities were conducted. In particular, for example, testing the required basic end-to-end scenarios before and after migration, as well as monitoring application performance metrics like response time. A regular big room planning process was introduced so that migration-related dependencies could be better managed using dashboards, risk boards, monitoring boards. Changes and improvements to processes that were agreed upon between the QA leaders, test managers, and management have been incorporated into the current software development lifecycle of the organization and define the definitions of ready and done for testing activities. Click, please. Yeah. Thank you. This is why we added this Atlas antidote from chapter 5 on this slide and show these practices that helped. So this is my story, and Mette, continue, please.
Thank you for that, Ilia. So I can see a question from one of our participants saying, why agile methodology is challenging in current world? So Michael, you had a bit about that, about current world and agile. I don't know if you have an answer for that.
Yeah, that's the starting of it. We took quite a length to also set the business environment and give something in the body of knowledge. Might be a start to discuss it. There is even big market study companies like Gartner who have set a point. It was shortly before we started working about the Atlas syllabus. They say things like the end of testing as we know it, yeah? The end of QA, quality assurance as we know it. It's a different way quality assurance should happen. And the value stream and value stream mapping, which is in the second chapter, is not explicitly about testing, but it's about the different focus that you need to have had. It's not enough anymore to be sure that testing is done good. It's about that testing literally works for the value to stream, to put it like that, and which is easily said and hard to made true. And discussing that and discussing it from the perspective of testers who still have the tools they had the year before, perhaps, is the interesting thing. The world is VUCA, volatile, uncertain. That means you need answers which are quicker, and that makes a difference. So that's the core of it in the amount we can discuss it here in a webcast.
Thank you very much, Michael. So if anyone else on the webinar have questions, feel free to put it into the comments in the right-hand side of your view. We'll just move on now. So that was most of the content that we have touched upon now. And you heard how has this been applied in real-world situations. So let's move on to the third part on how you get certified if you're interested. So basically, Atlas is one of the certifications which is now located in ISTQB's portfolio. This might be a different view than you are used to seeing. So we basically have Atlas here under what we call technologies and approaches. So Agile is an approach to how we do testing, and Atlas is part of that. So that means, and you'll hear more about the preconditions for actually getting certified. That's where it has an impact. So the Atlas certification is consisting of the documents that you are familiar with if you have previously been certified in Foundation or one of the other certifications provided by ISTQB. However, we have also developed some other things which we briefly have touched upon in the beginning. We have a body of knowledge document. So the syllabus is outlining what is it you need to learn, what are the learning objectives, and summarizing and scoping the whole certification. The body of knowledge is a new document that has only so far been created for Atlas, and there you get a lot more details about the content that each learning objective can cover. We have also added different visuals to make it richer, and hopefully that will help you understand the content better. I must add here that both the syllabus and the body of knowledge are examinable. That means you are expected to be familiar with both of them. We also have a self-study guide if you want to study for what we call a hands-on learning objective. So hands-on learning objective is not something that are being examined in the multiple choice, but it is expected that you actually practice some of this in order to be fully qualified. And Thomas will later tell you more about what this self-study guide is all about. Now, I'm very proud here to have some of the key authors with me today in this webinar, but a lot of more people have contributed. So ISTQB certifications are truly international, and they do provide aspects and perspectives from the international community. So here is the list of the key contributors, and behind that, we have a long list of reviewers. You can see it all in the syllabus document. And I'm very, very thankful for all the contributions we've had throughout the whole development period so far. Then let's go on to how you get certified.
If a certification is in place, yeah, how you get certified, it's about learning objectives and examinable learning objectives. A lot of participants here probably know that it's different K levels we go into. Knowing about it is K2, really being able to do it is K3. It starts with quality assistance, and in the modern world, you have to make sure it really works for others. Yeah, that's what we started to. The knowledge about it is not so hard to come by. That's why it's K2s. On the other hand, how to do it isn't easy at all. And we heard stories from my co-authors here who dwelled into that. That's why it's a hands-on objective. You have to practice it. And the other advantage is that we don't have to issue some questions about it, which gives us time to be a little bit more practical in our ATLaS syllabus and body of knowledge. Improvement of quality and flow in a value-driven organization has a good mixture of it. The deep dive in the K4 would be about identifying waste, which only makes sense if you do it on a value stream perspective, because the way where you look for what is wasteful, do I waste my own time, do I waste the times of others, is one of the core things about it. The continuous improvement in quality has some normal aspect. It's if you don't improve something in general, and testing in special, it's all nothing. And then we come to the things that connect the general world and behavior we should have at big value-driven organization to an organizational test strategy and the test processes. The K4 in the organizational test strategy would dig deep in how to make agile test leadership connect the whole thing with it, which is not a topic often discussed, because we dare to have a role model of that there is still some test leadership, as there might be architectural leadership in other ways. And you need the K4s like the one about the DevOps 8 in the chapter 4, which gives you a generic infinite loop of the DevOps to start the discussion. Again, it's a lot about starting discussions, and in the end, it all goes into the test processes that in the end should got better. And one of the last K4s is also one of the very important ones. It's about could there still be something like an agile test team leader because something happens in not a Scrum team, a normal Scrum team, but some kind of supporting teams? And there are answers in the Skate Agile work for it. And obviously ATLaS needs to mention them. So it's about some case, it's about 700 minutes, which can fit into 2 days if you are very quick and have a lot of self-study. So it's a good collection. The learning objectives have good trainers and links to them if you go there. We also had feedback, Mette, if I remember well, of someone who self-studied it and said it really was rewarding. So that's the feedback. Thank you for that, that they really like about it. And on the next slide, we come to the, if we switch slides, we come to the thing that such a body of knowledge and syllabus also needs to have an exam. Otherwise, it wouldn't be an ISTQB syllabus. The preconditions is we want people to have a foundational knowledge about testing, if they call them test leadership at scale, which is quite obvious. So that's why we set that at a precondition, or if it's the old foundation level, it needs to have the Agile Tester certificate also, because we don't really go into the detail of shifting left and all the quality practices that are involved there. That is already there in the Agile Tester, but we need it still. And if we do another click, you will get 40 questions, which has a mathematically calculated total of 71 points. You will it's more on the advanced level side, being specialist, which can be a mixed kind of certifications in ISTQB. So you will have 2-hour exams and hopefully are well prepared by studying body of knowledge and other things for it. Again, being a mine author, I might be biased, but I feel that a balance of practical exercises with theory about gives us a reasonable duration of the thing to really get into it without wasting time of people who come there. And one of the dangers with it being called Agile Test Leadership is that it's only for leaders, which is not true. It's for everyone who wants to talk with the leader and be responsible, take some responsibility for quality as we know it. That is for everybody out there. And going to such an exam gives you some chance to study for it and get more, as Line put it, some sure background, some standing, in trying out things. Yeah, that would be.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. I would like to talk a little bit about the hands-on learning objective. Like Michael said, the challenge here is not so much about understanding a theory, but really practicing it and getting better at it. Yeah. So the goal of our hands-on learning objective is to practice quality assistance and to have an opportunity to experiment with different approaches. Yeah. So we wanted to help people who self-study for ATLaS. So we have prepared a guideline how to practice coaching and facilitation in a peer group. Yeah. So the idea is to have a role play scenario where someone is needed to help others using coaching or facilitation, and there are observers who monitor this interaction. And for this, we have also created checklists both for coaching and facilitation. And then there's a retrospective afterwards where feedback is given before this exercise is iterated. So I think this is really a good opportunity also if you're not taking a course to practice quality assistance. And with this, I'd like to hand back to Mette for the exam options.
Thank you for that. So you can self-study, as we said, and go to an exam, or you can take a training and get an exam. So currently, if you go to the ISTQB website, you can get a list of who actually offers the ATLaS exam. As you can see here, it's currently still a limited number of what we call ISTQB member boards who have it, but fortunately more boards are planning on taking this on and be able to offer it in your local area. If you have any questions about getting certified, you can reach out to the boards you see here or our global exam providers. Alternatively, you can reach out to your local board, and I'm sure they can help you in finding an exam somewhere that will be close to you. If you need to get in contact regarding the content, we would really like to have feedback. So we've created this. We are, as said before, eager for it to be something that can help you. So please get in contact with your member board, and you can find the contact details again on the ISTQB website under member boards. So we are present in more than, I think, 65 countries, actually more than that, because some of our member boards covers several countries. So it should be possible to find something very close to you. So last but not least, let's dive into the benefits. Because after all, why would we do this? As I started this webinar telling you the story that I meet a lot of test managers, or have met at least in the past, who were very reluctant to change and to support agile transformations, and thereby helping their companies and organizations achieve the goal of increased business agility, delivering value to customers faster and better. So what you get from self-studying or taking a training is that you keep your test leadership skills relevant in a skilled agile environment. So again, we are looking into organizations which try to become more agile. That doesn't mean that they are very agile when they start, but you can then help get your organizations into the right direction and improve over time. It's also important that you can get your normal testing and quality activities and methodologies adapted and aligned and integrated with agile ways of working. So basically, we don't look for testing being something we do as a separate activity. We want, again, to make everything lightweight and integrated and take it to an organizational level. So that's what ATLaS will help you be able to do in your organization. And that's really something that I haven't seen so much in a lot of the years when I started to work with basically scaling agile and agile transformation at scale. Now, if you want to work on an organizational level, you need to understand the capabilities and how to grow them. And some of the things that we discuss in ATLaS about organizational test strategy, processes across multiple teams, and looking at your organization from a system perspective, value stream analysis, those are all things that help you take an organizational view and not a narrow and focused team view. Now, again, there's nothing wrong with focusing on a team, but when we talk about value-driven organizations, we do need people also to think about it from an organizational perspective. And that's where I believe the guidance has been very short. If you look into frameworks like Scaled Agile Framework, if you look at Scrum or their scaling frameworks, there's not much guidance on how is it we're going to do quality and lift testing to a broader level. So this is what we try to focus on and bring to you with ATLaS. Last but not least, you will also hopefully gain confidence in your ability to coach other people in your organization, people who are not usually working maybe with testing and quality, but who are actually needed in order to ensure the full value stream and to ensure we deliver value to customers. So this is some of the benefits that we see and hope that you will see if you study and use the things that we have here in ATLaS. Now, there's also benefits for your company. So by you learning these things, your company can actually, again, achieve this business agility, help implement frameworks for scaling agile without having the same challenges that I have seen many companies face when they focused on, maybe you can say, a lot about the processes but there were nobody there to actually explain, and that has an effect on how we do testing and quality and how we get this built in. So companies will overcome some of the challenges that we've seen in the past, at least, with making sure that we deliver quality products and services and not just deliver fast. It's also going to make sure that you have testing capabilities, and that if Agile, because I think in the beginning it meant that you would perhaps not focus on testing would be part of the team, but the bigger picture would be lost. That can come back into focus, and that will help your company again deliver value better and faster. We also want to have testing skills, testing competencies, as we call it, testing capabilities in our organization. Testing and quality is basically fundamental to Agile. You cannot have speed if you don't have quality. That simply doesn't scale. And if we are going to spend most of our time correcting problems that we create for ourselves, we're going to lose momentum. So therefore, it's really important for your company that we actually keep this focus, and that is what you can also help your company do by focusing on quality assistance, as we describe in Atlas. Now, we talked about getting certified, and maybe you want to attend a training. So we have a couple of arguments for you here that you can try and use to convince your manager to send you to training and get you certified. So we do have this point about Atlas filling a gap in the market in the sense of knowledge, because as I said, there are many frameworks for scaling Agile or for Agile DevOps and so on, but very few of them take a quality and a testing perspective on it. So therefore, by doing this, you are getting qualified to cover these gaps. You also get these Atlas methods and recommendations to work regardless of the framework or approach, because with Atlas we use examples from different frameworks, but we are being agnostic. It doesn't matter if you use one or the other, because the principles and the basic methodologies that we describe in our syllabus and body of knowledge, they apply in general. So you need, of course, to take these and find out what is it that's applicable in your situation, of course, but all of it is adjustable. And we also provide guidance to how you can do that. So with more practical methods, you can improve quality and testing across teams, not just in a single team, but see how you can get organizational learning, building a quality culture, and make sure that it's not falling between teams, as we actually have experienced it earlier, where the focus has been very much on each individual Agile team. So this is something you can use to convince your manager of the benefits that you will most likely see by you being certified and helping to focus and bring these kind of problems back into the light. So you also, last but not least, will be well equipped to drive change and experiments in how you can improve as a whole. So hopefully these arguments will help convince your manager that you should be certified or attend a training in the future. Great. So I'd like to end this webinar and talk a little bit about the vision we have for Atlas, because it's not just about being certified. We want to provide a body of knowledge and the certification, so you who actually do all the important work that test and build systems that is basically supporting our everyday life now, will get a quality mindset in your Agile organizations. We want to enable you to provide sustainable delivery of customer value, just aligned with the Agile principles, the Agile manifesto that we know. And hopefully we will continue to develop Atlas. So we are also relying on your feedback on our product. Does it help you to do this, to achieve these things? If not, we love to hear from you and adjust and improve the product. Great. So that's all we had for you guys today. We do still have a couple of questions, which I would like us to do. So let's look at what the questions are, and I will invite my co-authors to just unmute and answer whoever of them feel that they are up for it. So the first question we have here is, what strategies do you recommend for managing dependencies between teams, especially when it comes to integration testing?
I think, Mette, I would start with an answer and maybe also end, if not one of my colleagues has some it for the short of time. That's a very, 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 very good question. And it's the core of it. Let's talk 2 days of Atlas. Okay, that's the short. One of the aspects Atlas sends us into is to study agnostically, as we said it, but study scaling frameworks. And 2 of them who have recommendations about it would be the Skate Agile framework SAFE, which has a system team which is making integration as easy as possible to make it happen. And if you go to another framework, which is as short as you can come as a scaling framework, we would be in the Nexus guide, and the Nexus guide would give us the Nexus integration team. That would be one possible answer. The other possible answer would be, I already mentioned, I like the very last K4 in Atlas very much, which is analyze which test activities should be performed in the stream-aligned teams and which should be performed by specialized service teams. Maybe it can be done in your stream-aligned teams. They don't need some special teams, but maybe you need to have a good behavior in service teams that help to make this integration easier and more possible. And it's a start of it again, if you dwell into what team topologies by the authors of that thing goes into. They have also interaction types and other things. That would be the second part of the Atlas answer to it. And the third is, well, maybe it's really about your teams collaborating. And also there we have in the chapter 5 learning objectives, exemplify agile at scale practices that help coordinate test offers across agile and non-agile teams. Well, that is at least a starting point. So I recommend to not take it easy because it is not easy, and start experimenting what really helps.
Yeah, agree with Michael. I think you can use single backlog, big room planning on all levels in organization, because on organizational level with management and teams you can use like one pages and roadmap with progress percent, of course, without count of defects and so on. On team level, you can use definition of done like mandatory testing and confirmation reports to be not going to production without confirmation between all teams in this integration dependencies and so on. Like this, like simple proven agile practices like single backlog, big room planning, and what we use every day. Yeah.
Thank you very much for that. Awesome. We have a few more questions and a few more minutes to go. So this is not directly for Atlas, I think, but how can AI-driven monitoring tools be used to support shift-right testing in Agile, providing insights from production data to improve testing? So this is, I think, a more specific to AI, but I'm just going to throw it out to see if one of my co-authors might have an answer.
It can be your assistant. It can be your assistant agent. But of course, if you want to use it, you need to do all work and all rules by yourself. I mean, all mandatory works you need to do by yourself, and after that, on these rules, this AI assistant can help to you. For example, on production area or on pre-production area, you can put simple rules like, okay, we turn on backup and so on if we have response time more than 10 seconds. I mean, it's look like simple and not AI, but it's look like this if we're talking about AI assistant and so on.
Thank you very much for that, Ilia. And here's one more questions we have. So, frequent changes in business requirements can disrupt the agile process. How can teams effectively manage these changes without compromising the project's timeline and quality? So maybe I should
It's a hard one. Take it as a product owner.
Yeah.
Yes, I would love to take that, because I always find it interesting, because Agile was, you can say, a response to changing requirements. Because when we did Waterfall, we wanted to do requirements and we wanted to lock them. And then, of course, changes were really disrupting. In Agile, we try to find out how can we, with a foreseeable period of time, actually do some reasonable planning. And then we try to have more long-term planning. So I'm wondering in this question, again, when we say a project's timeline, we might have a milestone that cannot be moved, but in Agile, we would adjust on the scope. So if you have, again, back to fixed timeline, fixed scope, fixed resources or people, you are basically back in what we used to call the iron triangle. And that's simply not doable. That's not Agile. So maybe look into some of those premises you have and find out how can you negotiate? How can you better collaborate so that these changes, in essence, that's what Agile is all about, as you say, Michael, VUCA world, volatile, uncertain. So we actually, that's where Agile is a better way of trying to cope with frequent changes than if you, at least what we came from, the old waterfall way. And last but not least, let's see if we can manage this. How can I handle bias from stakeholders? Because if we would like to shift traditional mindset into quality assistance, I think it should be routines to lead the new change.
Be patient.
Yes. I think this is where, at least if you look at our whole chapter 1 about quality assistance approach, how you actually use coaching and facilitation and other techniques, we didn't explicitly put stakeholder management, but we actually put change management in there as a skill that is really important. And that's usually what I would see as one of the fundamental skills to handle your stakeholders in a change like this. So hopefully, if you dig into those areas, they are big disciplines in their own right. So I'm not going to pretend that Atlas covers them all in depth, but they actually help you and point you in a direction where you might need to strengthen your skills in order to deal with your stakeholders.
Yeah, be patient and be a manager. Yeah, actually, be a real change manager.
Yes.
Yeah.
Great. So we are up for time. So I would just like to thank you all for attending our webinar. I hope you gained more knowledge about what Atlas certification is all about, how you can benefit from it. And again, if you have any questions about it, please feel free to reach out to us in ISTQB, and we'll be happy to answer any questions you must have on the content. If it's about the exam, please reach out to your member board and how to get certified. That's your channel into this. They have the details. So thank you very much, and hope to see you in another webinar about Atlas in the future. Bye-bye.